All right, happy 2022. This is the first Brooklyn Bound podcast of 2022, which is kind of exciting. I didn't realize that, Quint,
Yeah,
until I just said it right now.
I
This is the
feel
first
good about
time
it.
I'm having
Good
a,
about it.
a podcasty conversation with someone. This is the Brooklyn Bound podcast, as you would know if you're listening. We are gearing up for first Brooklyn Bound of 2022, and it's gonna be a big one. It's a percussion marathon at Roulette. Bunch of cool percussionists playing. We can't be more excited. And the first percussionist I'm talking to is Khuent Rose. Welcome, friend.
How are you doing? How are you doing, Jason?
Yeah, I think pretty good. I think, all things considered, I'm all
Yeah,
right.
that's
I have a
good.
cup of coffee in my hand. We could do this whole podcast on this cup of coffee. These beans were grown by a good friend of mine who has a coffee farm in Ethiopia. He's an Ethiopian man who is my brother. We lived together for 2 years when I was growing up, and now he grows, I was gonna say roasts or brews. He does none of those things. He grows coffee
Okay.
beans, and this is a beautiful cup of Ethiopian roast coffee,
So
right?
that's really interesting. Only because I used to manage a Starbucks and I actually have a Black Apron Coffee Specialist certificate. So I am a huge coffee fan.
Okay. So, well, Matad is his family's spot. Um, they sell to
Okay.
many places, but if you Intelligentsia has an amazing Ethiopian roast that is Matad, and I'm
Okay.
gonna shout it out. Many other spots do, but they do. I learned more about coffee over this holiday hanging with Michael than I have. But well,
Okay.
so you maybe know this, being a Black Apron Starbucks, like
Hmm.
Ethiopia is like home base for Arabica coffee.
Yeah, coffee was
So
is like a royal cultural thing.
yeah,
Having like royal coffee beans is a thing.
yeah,
So,
I love this, right?
yeah.
I love learning about coffee, but I learned about every stage. And now it's going to be weird. He's got a organic farm in California now.
Hmm.
The only reason I say that's going to be weird is that, like, California coffee, that sounds funny. You know what I mean? Like, you have like Ethiopia and you have like
Oh, I
Venezuela,
see what you're getting
you know,
at. But
California
okay,
is gonna,
isn't Folgers brand? No, that's the Rocky Mountains. No, it's different. I
oh,
was
right.
thinking, yeah, never mind. I was thinking of San Andreas. Remind me. Okay,
I
I
can't
get
wait to have coffee together though. I'm
it.
learning.
Definitely.
Do
The
all the things.
smell, the slurping.
Yeah.
How was the
So do you
cream?
know about this?
Of course, aerating the coffee to make the molecules more vibrant. Yeah.
Yeah, the
That's a
slurping.
higher note, depth of the flavor. Having a
Yeah,
nice cream, making sure that the water is purified and the balance is right, the grind is good.
I'm definitely there. I've gotten I'm so snobby with my coffee thing right now. For Christmas, we got ourselves the thing that can get the right temperature of the
Hmm.
coffee.
Hmm.
The I don't know what do you call it, the kettle.
Yeah, I can't remember what that thing is called, but when you like press
Yeah.
the thing, yeah.
Yeah. You press the thing, 205 degrees. Yeah, I can't wait to hang out, Quentin.
Yeah, I still make all my coffee in a French press. I'm like, I
Yeah,
grind the beans, time
that's
it.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of
I'm there. Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, it turns out we could just talk about coffee. Talk
that.
about music though. Well, I already learned something about you that I didn't know, which I'm excited about. But my first question to folks on this podcast is always, it's the most sprawling question, Quint. I know you. I've seen you. I've seen videos of you, I think, performing. Josh is always passing on some awesome, sometimes on maybe a lead or something, but oftentimes cellos or kind of like, funkier pans that you don't see played solo as much. We are very excited to play together and to hear your band at Roulette, but I don't know the kind of Quint as a small boy, how you discovered your voice in music. What's your trajectory from
Okay,
small
so
to big?
I actually grew up the same neighborhood I live in now in East Flatbush. I grew up along Church Avenue in Bedford. My parents are actually from Honduras and Costa Rica, and then oddly enough, like within their own community, they're from smaller communities. So my mother's from a tiny island off the coast of Honduras called Rotan. So their culture is it's like very Caribbean and English speaking, even though the nation is Spanish speaking. And my father's from an area of Costa Rica called Limon. It's like kind of up in the mountains and remote. Basically, his backyard was a rainforest. So they also have a huge Caribbean and not typical Central American type lifestyle.
Mm.
So they met up here in Erasmus High School. Brooklyn and had me. So
Good job. Well
thank you.
done.
You know, they did something right, at least one thing. Um, they tried to and then had me. Physics. Anyway, so comedy is a thing. Basically, as a young, my earliest memory of music was that my great grandmother, who passed away, Ida Brown, she's also from Costa Rica. She had bought me one of those small keyboards. I don't have my little MIDI keyboard, but a really tiny keyboard.
Mm.
And I remember sitting on the steps of the house during Christmas time, and the TV played one of those Christmas songs, Jingle Bells, Frosty the Snowman, something. And I remember, like, really, like, I can, like it was today, that as soon as I started to play along, and I kind of figured out the idea of like mapping motion through the keys, like
Cool.
I just remember like everything turned on. I felt like I understood everything in that moment. It's like the brightest vibrant memory I have. And then immediately after, like kind of figuring some of it out, my mother came over to me and said, "Oh my God, you figured out how to play the piano." And she sang it to me, but in a different key. And
Oh,
that's also when I had like a, wait a minute, pattern. It's just a pattern. And I was able to kind of where she was the other key. And I think that was that dopamine at the, like 4 or 5 was, um,
wow.
and growing up around music, my parents liked to play. My father was people that played everything, like Beethoven, and
Mm.
then James, and then Luther Vandross, and then Tchaikovsky. And I mean, just because he wanted to play things to listen to,
Mm.
and that kind of screwed me up at first because a lot of my friends were American, but they never listened to this kind of music.
Mm.
So here I was constantly exposed to like dense, harmonic, well crafted music by the great time. And I would try to talk to about it, and I would come across as crazy.
Mm.
So for the most part, my like development outside had nothing to do with music until I was about 10 years old. My
Mm.
mother had a coworker that was the mother of the captain of Chasm Steel Orchestra at the time. His name is Dwight De Silva. He's actually currently a music producer and a, I don't want to call him a disc jockey, but he's like a radio personality.
Well, so
Um,
Chasm's in Brooklyn. How
yes,
long has
Chasm.
Chasm, and it's been around for a,
Yes, Chasm, I think, was, from my understanding, Chasm, as the Caribbean American Sports and Cultural Youth Movement, was
mm.
founded by the late William Jones and a few other people who I can't remember names. I don't want to be bad about that. Sometime around the 1970s, actually, like 1979.
Wow.
And they were stationed in Crown Heights, Brooklyn, and they actually a few blocks from where I actually live now, in a
Yeah.
church called St. Francis of Assisi in the basement. And they catered to young people in the community that wanted to play steel drums. So my mother said, "Hey, my son is getting hyperactive and he
Mm.
likes music. Throw him in the steel band." And
Mm.
she took me that year. I remember that she introduced me to this lady that I kind of knew all my life, like my mom's coworker.
Mm.
And she took us to Panorama. And at the age of about 9 or 10 years old, I sat in the third row of a Brooklyn Panorama, and that's when the first time that I got exposed to like live music that shook the air, the physical space around me. It
Mm.
wasn't like in a club where you didn't see anybody. It's just kind of like speakers. It was the first time I'd seen 100 people, 120 people. Technically, over the course of the night, probably 1,000 people playing pan.
Mm.
Maybe an exaggeration, but I remember that back then there was like 15 bands, and it was just a lot of
Yeah.
stuff,
Makes
and
sense.
that impressed upon me kind of like a bridge between the dance music I was accustomed to listening to, like a lot of salsa, a lot of merengue, a lot of gospel music, like the 60-piece choirs with the organ. Like I was listening to a lot of that. And then you turn on the radio and you hear like a pop tune with like 4 voices. And I would just kind of never gravitate to that. So
Mm.
seeing the steel band that way, plus my love for the piano, was like everything was just polyphonic. Like
Mm.
my whole life was just in surround sound at that point. And
Yeah.
honestly, from there, it was mostly steel band practices every Friday and Saturday night. I was basically playing in a band professionally because we were touring by the time I was 12 up and
Wow.
around the East Coast. I remember being pulled out of school to go play for the governor and playing for the
This in
mayor.
Chasm?
This is
Is,
while still in Cassim. Yes, we used to go
wow.
play at the mayor's mansion, the
Cool.
governor's mansion on Governor's Island. We played for the president once or twice. We opened at WWF's one of the WrestleManias. Um,
Amazing. No
it's
shit.
like in hindsight, I'm like, damn, I did a lot. We did a
Yeah,
lot of interesting
amazing.
things. while we were yet going through puberty.
Right.
And around the age of 16, I started getting into these like local steel band competitions. And it so happened that one of the competitions was offering a scholarship to go to Memorial Unit. Well, at the time it was Florida Memorial College.
Mm.
And that's when I met Freddie Hazzard, who's currently a music producer, steel panist, virtuoso in every regard. He lives in Manhattan, and Dr. Dawn Batson Burrell.
Absolutely.
Dr. Batson. Dr.
Can I just say, can we pause for a second?
Yes.
I've met Dr. Batson recently. It's amazing. We've talked on Zoom a couple of times. She came up to our show that we did last month. But every time somebody says her name, it's the same moment. It's just like eyes get a little bigger.
Yeah.
It's like this human, this
she's
woman.
not a regular person.
Yeah.
But she's not. She's aware of Dr. Batson. Seriously changed my life in every possible way. Like outside of my parents, there are probably 5 human beings that I could say really changed, like made me stop being the kind of person that I am, to like force me to choose to be a better person. And she was easily the first one, like to confront me and all of my personality quirks, and forcibly explain to me, like, you are in control of more than you realize you can be in control of. And if you kind of sit in that power of being in control, not only of yourself, but of these other things, then like everything is accessible to you. And like I had a lot of like life-changing
I was gonna
moments.
say, these are big things. We're not talking about Pan right now. I mean, we are, but we're talking about huge things.
Yeah, I mean, I was 16 years old when I graduated high school. I was 16. I skipped a grade somewhere down in the earlier years, and I always had a mature look. I had a full beard and a deep voice by the time I was like 12. So no one really realized
For
that
me, it was 22, so we were balancing.
But then after 30, it kind of like stuck. So now I just kind of look this age.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Amazing.
The genetic clock, I think, is just a little broken, so it's not aging no more. It works for me. But yeah, so here I am, 16. I'm in the competition. I played the competition. I happened to win the competition, like a few of them. So I go to Florida Memorial, and while I'm down there, I have sublime culture shock because I'm kind of a stuck-up New York kid. Because I was at the time I could speak Latin and Spanish.
You pour over your coffee.
Yeah, I exactly. I was kind of snobby. And I went to Florida that had like Southern culture, right? So a cosmopolitan Yorker, Southern culture is a foreign place. Okay, like people were basically it was like going to school with Waka Flocka, and yeah, I didn't know how to react. So I often like kind of like stayed to myself. Um, I was too stressed. It was like I felt too isolated, and there's a point where Dr. Batson kind of like spoke to me and said, "Listen, you can do this somewhere else. Like you are armed enough that you could do this somewhere else. You should take what you have and go somewhere else and learn something in a different environment." And that's what I did.
Music, you can do this. That you can learn music somewhere else. If you
you're not. You don't have to stay here to do this, right?
Yeah.
And during that time, we were able to help a group of us actually were kind of like scholarshiped together, and like a tour, and we were able to actually help the accreditation of the music program so that the school, so Florida Memorial College became Florida Memorial University. It is today. So I guess that's a little pin in my
that's
my
amazing.
story.
And so is this true? Tell me if this is right. So, I mean, there are other folks, I don't know the Pan world as well as, other folks in my group, as well as Josh, as well as you, but there are a lot of people that you trace to Dr. Dawn Batson, who I would know. I mean, like, did you know Kendall down there? Or did you guys meet down there?
No. So oddly enough, my first connection with Dr. Batson was that this musical director of Chasm, the long standing, he'd been there for about 20 years, the person that I was basically helping to found his name is Arden Herbert. He's currently the musical director and arranger for Invader Orchestra in Trinidad. So he had Dr. Batson as a teacher growing up. So it was kind of like kismet that he would introduce me to his teacher, and that yeah. When I got into Chasm, Kendall, I think, was just like another player in the band, but we didn't go to school together.
Yeah. Okay. You met before you went down to Florida or after?
Like briefly, we were kind of like around each other, but we were never like.
Yeah, I got it.
We didn't communicate really till after everything.
Nice. Okay. Cool.
Like
cool.
Crossfire years with Dougie, God rest his soul.
Okay. Yeah. Yes. Okay, cool. I'm learning so much now. This is just like, I want to just get a history lesson, but that's going to happen over coffee another time. I want to get the broad. This is like, the pieces of the puzzle are amazing. Like Josh sent me a recording of Dr. Batson's, I think it was an arrangement for pan orchestra.
Oh, Black Holes Do Exist?
Yeah, Black Holes Do Exist, and an arrangement of Rite of Spring.
Oh yeah.
I was like, you know, I was like, I was a snob. Okay, I was a snobby something, and I'm like, I don't think this is. I don't think this is not going to be good. Like from meeting Dawn, I love her. I don't think this is going to be. Whoa, this is super otherworldly. This is cool. Yeah. Like I was totally sold, you know, but I went in not ready to be sold. I was like, I'm not sure this needs to happen.
No, we're convinced that she doesn't hear music. We're convinced that she hears frequency, and she knows how to translate frequency to music.
Yeah, that's cool. That's the same but different. Yeah. So after Florida, you moved back to New York?
I moved back to Brooklyn, and I went to school at Brooklyn College, where I met Dr. Ben Salvage, Ben Bierman, and then finally another person I have to clutch my chest at, Dr. Tanya Leone.
Oh, amazing. Yes.
Dr. Tanya Leone stressed me another like decide who you're going to be moment. She required me to write music by hand. I remember one day I brought in 12 pages of orchestra music, 12 handwritten pages, dense of orchestra music. And she just solfeged her way through it.
Yeah, Drew, yeah.
She found one spot she liked, picked up the paper, and sat by the piano, and then played this dense piece of orchestra music and said, write more stuff like this. I don't know what you want to do with that. I swear to God, I walked from her office to the bursar's office to figure out how I could change my major without paying too much money. That's how stressed this woman had me.
Wait, but change your major to get out of music or into music?
No, out. I was ready to go into guidance counseling or something. I was over it. And then of course I had the epiphany moment, like she's saying, yeah, this is what I should pursue, and I should stop being narrow yourself down to the and then I graduated from there after way long, and started arranging within Brooklyn, started tuning pans, started teaching.
Awesome. And amazing. So the last place I live in New Jersey now. I live in Princeton, New Jersey.
Congratulations.
Maybe, I don't know. I grew up in California. This podcast is not about me, but I grew up in California, and it's still, when I'm talking to my brother or something, I still can't say like I live in New Jersey. Like it's still hard, you know? But I most of my you understand, you live in Brooklyn. So I lived in Williamsburg for many years, but 2 years I lived in Prospect Heights, right? You know, near Crown Heights, near the Panyards. My daughter was very young, but I got up. So what would it have been? Was it actually called Juve when they do it in? Yeah. So I mean the whole night thing, but we went out to Grand Army Plaza. I was expecting to see huge steel bands, and I got there for the trucks and the feathers and the costumes. I mean, it was amazing. It was amazing.
You got there for the parade.
I had a 9-month-old on my shoulders and was just like, holy moly. Like, I mean, loud, like killing music, you know, but it was like, I thought I was coming for the steel bands.
Where the band's at?
At the wrong time. Yeah. But yeah, there was a point in the past where steel bands were more prevalent on the parade, but they opted to having more money by being able to advertise through larger speakers. So But so then the bands would have happened maybe the night before at a
Yeah, so the majority of the steel band activity in the Labor Day arena, that whole like
yeah
weekend, is
yeah
happening at the Panorama the Saturday before, and then the Sunday night between like three, like basically from midnight all the way till the morning, until Monday morning where the parade is. So that's really
right
what it was for, was kind of like this lead up. There are less big trucks, and most of the music is steel band and rhythm section.
yeah
That's where you're
that
gonna
I
find
think
someone painted like a blue devil or a red devil,
totally
that's
yeah
throwing like baby powder everywhere. Yeah.
yeah I need to go back. I need to go back. I thought
Yes.
I was going to the pants. I well yeah enough about me, Quint. This is definitely I need to know more about you. So I want to hear about the set you're planning for Roulette.
Ah,
um
okay.
and maybe that's just a good place to go right now. I mean, I know you do many things,
I do too
and
many
I mean,
things.
no, I don't think that's true. I think
No,
you
no,
just
no. It is. I do too many things to the point now that I feel like I have to kind of like consolidate my careers into a few things, but I'm going to disappoint a whole ton of people, regardless of what that consolidation turns into.
yeah.
Yeah. The set that I'm doing. So one thing to say preemptively is that I did like my love affairs with the piano. I spent the majority of my life playing the piano in churches, out of churches. Um, but I have had a, like a side chick with the steel pan as well, just for just as long.
Mm.
So I have a tendency to play the piano very percussively, and then to play the pans very pianistically. Um,
Love that.
so part of my set is I guess I can reveal all the parts that I want to actually do. I want to do 5 pieces. I think I have like 12 minutes to do this.
Yeah, amazing.
Right. So
Yeah.
one piece is called A Little Faith. It's a piece written actually for a friend. She was going through some stressful stuff. So I wrote her kind of a poem for her. It goes, a little faith is all to change the world, reach to peace. A little trust can set you free, and fear will never touch your heart or kill your dreams. So it's a bunch of other stuff. Anyway,
Mm. Beautiful.
so we're gonna play that. I'm also gonna have a friend of mine. His name is Kawhi. He's gonna be singing the vocal part. Andre White, who is another well-known, well-respected steel pan player.
Mm.
He's going to be playing double seconds, and then I'm gonna have two examples of my teaching actually.
Awesome.
Jelani Roberts and Demoy Morgan. Those are like two of my proteges. They're going to be playing lead steel pan, and I'm going to accompany and fill everything on the keyboard. So that's one big piece.
Awesome.
I also wrote some weird stuff that I call the Corona monologues. They're like these parody pieces that use the melodies of old, um, or not old, but use the melodies of like soca and calypso songs, and I rewrote the lyrics to be, sarcastically making fun of coronavirus. Not the death of it, of course, but the fact that we got to deal with fevers and toilet paper missing and all that.
Man, we're gonna have to compare some notes. My I think before I officially rolled tape, we were talking about I was talking about my daughter a little bit, I think,
Mhm.
but she wrote some coronavirus tunes that are very catchy, including the best hook, uh coronavirus, you're a frog-faced pile of camel spit. That's the
How?
chorus. Coronavirus, you are a frog-faced pile of camel spit, camel spit, camel spit. It's really good. Her and her friend, it's like it's good, but there's a set of them, so we can compare notes, man. I think that's a good. I'm very happy about this.
Whoa. Okay.
But you have
That's
they're called the Corona monologues.
Yeah. They're called the Corona monologue. That's like the name of the album of music. It's a few of them. It's like six or
Amazing,
seven songs. It's kind of ridiculous.
awesome. So you
Um,
could do a couple of them, same instrumentation with the with
Yeah, so then I'm going to be singing like a kind of half drunken bard. Jelani will be playing drums, and Andre's going to solo through the steel drums with us. Um, those two pieces. I'm also going to do a piece called Morning After. It's kind of play on words, whether it's the morning as the day after, or after something tragic has happened, and you have to kind of mourn that loss. I'm going to
yeah,
be playing that as a duet with Andre White, and finally, I'm going to do something that everyone is always like, I don't trust doing that. Basically, I'm going to find two people in the audience. I'm going to have them become randomly introduced and write a song based off of their names.
amazing. Off their
So,
names.
yeah, so one time it was Donovan and Elisa. So his name was Donovan. So I had to turn that into a melody.
Oh,
And
cool.
then Elisa. And then I turned that into a melody.
Nice.
Donovan meets Elisa. And then I asked the small child, what did they do? I think she said that they play or they ate. I can't remember what it was. Something about they did something nice. It was pleasant.
Yeah.
I just had to turn that into rhythmic material and then turn it into melodic material. And that became a song. So
Awesome.
demonstrate some weird way that my brain works in front of
I love it.
everybody for
You
2 minutes, and
solo?
then that'll be a piece.
Do you play these solo?
Yes, I'll play. I always play them solo, and they never
Nice.
get played again. So
Yeah.
it'll
Yeah.
literally
Yeah.
be a piece that only has ever been heard by all of those people at that one point.
I love that though. I love that. I don't want to transition too quickly to my next question, but it does bring to mind, I mean, like what is the purpose of live performance? And it feels like it's being in a moment,
Mhm.
I'm so happy for that, because I don't know how many live performances you've experienced in the last year. It's probably a lot less than
Mm-mm.
years, right? Like it feels like everyone is still really special. So I'm so happy there's something happening in that moment.
Yeah.
But then I'm so happy too. You're joining us. You're gonna play piano.
Yeah.
In fact, have a little cool solo
Solo.
moment
Yeah.
if you're down for it. Yeah. On this Julius Eastman piece, Stay On It. Do you know this piece at all? Have you
I
known it
listened to it.
before?
Josh sent some recording for me to listen to. I was like, oh, this is fun.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think it's gonna be really fun. I
Yeah,
think it's
very.
gonna be fun. Well, I think a lot of folks from the evening are gonna join us on it, which is like kind of
Yeah.
we're pretty pumped about, but it's also going to be a pretty wild, wonderful instrumentation and so many good things about it. So many good
Yeah.
things. And the first time we've ever played it live, because we've recorded it and done different versions, pandemic style, but this will be, yeah,
Very
live.
original.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yay. Thank you for joining us on that. Well, let me transition to this next question, because
Sure.
I mean, we were talking, I think, also before we turned the video on, just about you know teaching in this pandemic moment and just experiencing this pandemic moment. I early on, I would ask everybody, how is the pandemic kind of changed your thought process about music making, and that lasted for about a month, and then the the George Floyd moment happened, and larger conversation about race and equity, started to, of course, so was talking about it, and our community was talking about it. So then that question, and then I feel like, from then you can just pile on any number of things, an election, an insurrection, continued, whatever, any
Yeah.
number of things, like this last year or this last 2 years. So like, what has your
Hmm.
process been as an artist, and have you found that it has changed over the last year or two, or have you come back to something fundamental, or like what's the process
Okay.
been for you?
So okay, there's an inside and the outside. The inside part of me went through a weird range where, like the world is on fire. So my thought at the beginning was write music, like use music as a vehicle for healing and expression. And it was still very esoteric, very kind of divine in nature.
Mm.
And then over time, somewhere around like the ninth month of quarantine, like it was like all of these uneasy, dark kind of emotions were always kind of present. Like even I'm a very laughable person, kind of
Mm.
jovial. But even in the midst of talking to people, like these kind of dark comments would sneak out. And I had to kind of step back and consider that like the art that I'm creating, if it was meant to be a token of healing, I have to consider that am I really like is my art actually healing anybody? Like that kind of grave thought. Like, am I doing this out of narcissism or am I doing this out of like a genuine ability to help someone? I could say, but if everyone's and no one gets help, then me saying I'm a doctor, you know. So that was happening to me on seriously. And then I
Yeah.
was also teaching online with Zoom, and I knew that these students were, I mean, teaching music online
Yeah.
had its challenges. Basically, I tried to turn everyone into an engineer. I turned everyone into a producer. Like that's what your job is. We're
Yeah.
using BandLab and Soundtrap. If you got Logic, send me the Logic files. If you got Cakewalk, like I was basically doing everything I could. But at the end of it, it was still this nagging question: like, gave them things to do, but did it better anything, or was it just a pleasant distraction? So that was happening to me on the outside. I mean, on the inside. Then on the outside, people were asking me about like produced music. I'm also part of a group of people that we pan players really, and pan enthusiasts and percussionists that they're called the Coalition. There are a few videos of us playing online. It's
What's the name again?
the Coalition. That's the name that we gave it. The Coalition.
Yeah, Coalition.
Myself, Jelani Al Roberts, Iman Pascal, Kareem Thompson, Damo Joat. This is the stage name. Sheldon Thwaites. Did I say KJ Marcel, and did I miss anyone? I don't think I missed anyone. I hate if I did. There's a few of us. I'm just trying to make sure I said it right. Anyway, basically, we realized that we were the people that the steel band community was going to for musical direction. So when they wanted an arranger, they were like calling either, like Kendall, they're calling Mark, they're calling Odie, or they're calling one of us to go and do work. And we're like the same age group and everything. So we said, okay, we're going to band together. Awesome. And getting into competitions. We played at a steel band festival that was online when we competed with people from Trinidad, and we won. Overall, we won as a group, as a quartet. And individually, the players placed 1, 2, and 3 in every category. And we had that moment where we're like, yeah, on the outside, right? We were like, we can do this. And then everything became about money, not the group, but like our focus became, how do we use the talent that we have to eat so that we're not doing other things to eat. So the pandemic really changed, because prior to all of this, to be honest with you, my only motivation in life was become a tool radio for God and get my music out so people can hear it and teach. There was really very little concern about acquisition of assets, royalties, copyright. I didn't care about any of those things, honestly, of my time as a musician. But it made it obvious to me that trading my time for a living means that at some point or another, my life will be about money. And to avoid that, that has been like a really big push. So if anything, the pandemic has made me more retirement oriented. Like my thought process is how to do what I do, to share it with people in a long way that's not exhausting to me or too costly to maintain. So that's what the pandemic has done with me. As far as teaching, the mental health crisis that people are discussing when it comes to students that are surviving, online teaching or remote learning, the isolation, the extended isolation. Honestly, it's just two things. When students are around each other in school, they have to sharpen their egos and their personalities with other people with potentially stronger egos and stronger personalities. They have to deal with authorities from the teachers, authorities from their classmates. There's the layers of authority. And then you find your way in the threshing pole, or what you do is you pull away, or whatever the process is. But that process helps to refine how students not only socialize, but then how they build a system of motivation. So if I'm going to a school where everyone is a high achiever, whether I want to be or not, I'm likely going to achieve slightly more than someone that's in a school full of low achievers or people that haven't learned the culture of high achievement, whatever that may be. I know these are loaded statements sometimes. And as a creative person, it's hard to not consider that the lack of motivation that students have, whether it's to learn a new concept or to persist, that's like a big thing. Like getting a student to do something for a long period of time is a big thing. And part of it comes from this, but you can see it smashed on one side. It's that it to myself, too much quick gratification is a problem. And honestly, living around no one else but their parents for 2 years meant that they subconsciously have been picking up all of their parents' habits. So when their parents get stressed, they resort to means to fix the situation. And those fix the situations, behaviors become the behaviors of students in the school, whether it's to become very quiet, very extroverted, defiant, ignoring, you know, whatever those things are. So
Hmm.
everyone in the system, I think we were talking about this, like the system itself has to start realizing
Hmm.
that if we're going to make an impact on young people, if we're going to really educate people, that we need to adjust the system altogether.
Hmm.
The parents are part of the system,
Hmm. Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
The students have to be made responsible.
Yeah,
And
part
the
of the
teachers
too.
are not babysitters. But
Yeah,
those three things
yeah,
are what we really have to address. Once we address
yeah.
those things, students will have a sensation of support from their family to be high achievers, from their teachers to be high achievers, and then everyone will become psycho-emotionally conscious.
Hmm.
There you go.
Hey, I love those. I felt like I was wonderfully quiet for several minutes trying to digest a lot of those thoughts. It's amazing. I feel like the first part of your, so I guess the inside answer
Mhm.
um resonated slash I feel like I've had that conversation before. Um and then the outside answer went to a new space, which was like not unlike what you were just talking about, the system. I mean, it's like if you are, I don't know if it's the way you would describe yourself. I think I can describe you this way. In Brooklyn, you are the top of you are in a tier that is a high achieving pan. Like you're in a thing. And if being in that thing, you can't sustain everyday life in a way like how is the system broken if that's the case? I mean, the system is broken if that's the case for any human being, but just like even within the capitalist system that we're living in, if the highest achieve whatever, like the go-to arrangers in the scene are, if what this moment has done is rethink like, wait a minute, I need to be thinking about my retirement because how am I going to sustain that? Less like a, this is I think I was saying, this is the first conversation I've had like this of 2022. And thank you for refreshing my thought process on it, because I feel like there has been in our kind of new music, contemporary music community, there has been some conversations about some bigger systemic things. But then everybody gets tired and stop having the conversations.
Oh
And
yeah.
so, tonight, actually, after this call, another Zoom kind of conversation about some of these systems. And it's thanks for the refresher in a personal way. But I'm kind of struck. I love this conversation, Quint, because some of it's
He's
familiar
like,
to me.
my God.
No, some of this is familiar to me, and some of it is just such new way to think about things, which
Right.
I love. My last question, because I think I told you, we have 2 minutes and 12 seconds, 11 seconds, 10 seconds, 9 seconds. No, I'm just joking. We have a couple minutes for this last question. And I love that you already mentioned one. You mentioned Donovan, and was that the name, Donovan? No. The song you made for the two people who met for the first time.
Oh, Donovan and Lisa. Yeah.
Yeah. That was already kind of an answer to this question. The question is, thinking back to the pre-pandemic moment, and just thinking about like how special it is to make music with people in a room. I've been thinking, and so always talks about the kind of, the tour memories, you know what I mean? The time that this happened in this crazy, nobody was there, but we played so great, or like, we broke this instrument when this happened, or whatever, just
Yeah.
whatever the like all night drive was, or the weird food we ate, or just whatever the story is, would you mind sharing what one of your kind of go-to pre 2020 people in a
Hmm.
room together sharing music kind of stories?
Pre-pandemic, let me think. So I know that right before like shutdown, I was doing these classes in uh my room. I got commissioned by the Brooklyn Arts Council, somebody, to put on these classes in my room about arranging and steel band tuning. And I do remember there was a day where I rearranged Twinkle Twinkle Little Star so that it was like hard to read. It was like it changed keys 6 times. There was like a lot of ton of chromaticism. Um,
Sounds mean.
You've met me as a teacher, then.
Met you as a wonderful, warm human. I haven't seen the mean side of Khuent.
Yeah, I also a lift, so I'm one of those people that if it's not hard, it's not worth it. So
Yeah,
if it's
I'm
challenging
married.
the
I'm
body,
married to one of them. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so you understand this.
I do. I do.
I have to go
Yeah,
deadlift. Okay.
yeah.
And the sorry, I'm just thinking. I remember that in like the students are playing the song, and they're kind of like just kind of messing around with it. But then there's like a point where they play it right. They like play a section that's right and it's clear. And I remember that the door at the time had been open. The nurse like walked in from the other side of the room, the other office, and she like walks into the band room and she says, "Oh shit."
I see what this. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Those kind of moments tend to happen a lot with my friends. They are excellent, beyond believable players. And sometimes the random things that we come up with tickle the brain in ways that it's hard to replicate. So that's one of my aha moments, the oh shit moment.
I love it. The light bulb moment, right?
Yeah.
It's always the light bulb moment. I love it. And I'm looking forward to some of these moments, listening to your set, but also getting a chance to play with you. Man, I'm very excited about it. Those of you who are checking out this conversation, the show that this is leading up to is February 5th. It's at Roulette. I think it's an early start time because we're going marathon style. We're going for a while. I think it's like a 6 p.m. start time. We're going to go for three or 4 hours, have a whole night of percussion music. Very, very pumped about it. Khuent, it's a pleasure to talk to you.
You as well.
Not wait to brew you a cup of coffee, friend.
Oh, please. But I can't drink coffee after like 1 p.m. I don't know how you're doing this right now.
I understand. It's decaf. I
Oh,
understand.
okay, smart,
Yeah.
smart.
Yeah. Cup of caffeinated in the morning, cup of decaf in the afternoon.
Okay.
I'm with you. I'm
I'm
with
gonna
you.
try that. I'm gonna try the decaf coffee. I haven't converted yet.
Yeah. I've converted. The taste is just too good to give up, but the caffeine I can't have in the afternoon.
Yeah, the washing, I know, remove some of the oils. It's
Well, let's do morning. Let's get together in the morning. We'll get
that
together in the
works for
morning.
me. That works
Have
for
some
me.
coffee. Yeah.
That works for me. Imagine a caffeinated conversation.
Yeah, we'll have yeah, we'll get amped up, Khuent. I'm excited.
All right. Thank you again for having me. This has been
Absolutely
really refreshing.
Yes, and thank you for starting 2022 podcast and conversation life off right. I appreciate it. I'll see you soon, man.
Dankeschön.
Dankeschön back. Bye.
Later.